Good morning, welcome to sunny Hampstead. I'm just out for my morning constitutional, and it's had a funny little incident, micro incident, happen, which has made me think about a couple of topics actually. But here's the first one: risk and evaluation of risk, rationally versus irrationally, or at an instinctive or intuitive level. Now, we are in the middle of a COVID-19 outbreak, right? That's the context if you're watching this down the line. Or listening to it down the line. So I was just sitting on a bench, having finished my little morning, writing my gratitude list and trying in my rubbish way to do a bit of meditation to start the day in a quality way. And I coughed, big deal. And I noticed, I looked to my right, and about 10 meters away, it's got to be, there's a lady looking at me, look rather crossly or maybe anxiously. And of course, coughing, is famously one of the symptoms of COVID-19 and a way of spreading it. Now, do I take self-isolation for those who are diseased seriously? Yes, of course. I probably had this thing a couple of weeks ago, and I made sure that I was pretty much laid on my back in bed most of the day anyway, but I didn't go near any other people, nor do I think I should now. And if I were going in a supermarket or a tube or a bus or anything, of course I would wear a mask if I need to. But here's the thing, from 10 metres away, rationally, I think her danger for me was pretty minimal, and not to say nothing. According to everything I understand about this thing, and that I've been told by the government anyway, unless somebody knows something I don't. Conspiracy theories in the comments, please. Joking apart, that sort of said to me an interesting phenomenon that we're experiencing right now, and in quite extreme ways with this COVID-19 thing, but just generally true in life. I think people get sensitized because they're told about a risk repeatedly, and they get very, very sensitive to that risk, and understandably so, but the rational level and response to the risk is one thing, but the intuitive and instinctive response is to start to sort of, with this COVID-19 thing, for example, treat a lot of people like the kind of scary potential threats, and to a degree it's a weird thing, isn't it? We live in weird times, and this is one of the weird side effects, and to a degree there is a reality about that, and of course I take that very seriously. But to a degree I think there is an overreaction about that is telling that there's a sort of animal level instinct that creeps in, and that's only natural, but I think we've got to really guard against that taking over in life. Now, especially in business, if you let fear that is irrational in its level or assessment of a risk that is excessive or just irrational in the way that you allow it to take you over, you will never do anything, because of course everything has a risk attached. Now, for example, there's a guy driving past in a van here, which is actually these days almost a rare sight to where I live, because suddenly London's become emptied of traffic, and I have to say it's quite refreshing as a side note. But here's the thing, people like that lady who was anxious, to some extent understandably, to some extent though irrationally, I would argue, about me coughing 10 metres away from her, when 2 metres is the famous distance we're all being told to enforce, or 6 feet if you're an American one, is about 2 metres, or old school Brits. Actually she probably drives to work, or she has driven to work in the past, or would be willing to get in a car, and actually the statistical probability of death in a car is not that small. It's something like 1 in 700, which is, I would say, I don't know what that is in percentage terms, it's probably about the same as the common flu. It's not tiny, it's not nothing, and the chance of having an accident at some point in your life where you could experience some injury or a loss of distress is pretty high. I've been driving for, what is that now, 25 years or something now, showing my age, and I've been involved in a few accidents, a couple of which could have been pretty nasty, but I was lucky. Now, is that because I'm a bad driver? I don't know, I'm probably average, I would like to think, but everyone probably thinks they're average or good driver. So even if I'm bad, I may be averagely bad. So, yeah, the point is, risk of a standard activity that most of us do, driving, is pretty high. And are we really evaluating that risk highly enough? Probably not. Most people, for example, the same lady that I saw there, or somebody like her, may well have been the person crossing in front of me for the last 5 years, and I've been living in London roughly. When I bike around London everywhere, and the number of people who step off a pavement staring at their iPhone, and we've all seen it, right? You're laughing now, I know, because you're thinking, oh, that's me, or oh, I've seen somebody did that yesterday. Step off a pavement, not look left, not look right, just step off a pavement into a busy road. And we're talking London here, which is similar to, say, New York City or Paris. Busy, busy, busy roads with a lot of traffic, with people who are famous for not, looking particularly out for the needs of pedestrians or other road users. Now, that is a risk to life and limb, for sure. So I think that's just a very boring, mundane, everyday little wrong evaluation of risk that, somebody coughing near you versus stepping off a road into traffic without looking left or right and staring at your phone, and preferably, in some cases, not listening to traffic because they've got music playing and not looking. Now, I'm not getting at anyone who walks around listening to music with their iPhone. I do that all the time. Why not? But when I get to a road, I look left, look right, and look left again, or whichever way around it's supposed to be. I was taught that when I was 5, which may explain why I'm still alive on the planet. And so I challenge you to ask yourself, what is your equivalent in your business? What risk are you excessively worried about to the extent that you never get going and you never do something in an area? For example, a lot of the time for people who haven't even started selling, it's like fear of picking the wrong product. Well, you know what? You won't know really without market validation and feedback whether you got it right or not. You cannot get it all right on paper, as it were. Using Jungle Scout or Viral Launch or Zonguru, my new favorite research tool, whatever it is you use, it's based on data that Amazon makes available to the public and then an evaluation of the data by an algorithm. It's not the truth. It is a good guide to what may work, and then you need to get out there and test it. So that's one fear that people tend to allow to freeze them. It is real. The fear of spending a lot of money. Well, then spend a modest amount of money and test it. It would be my solution. And then the other thing that I think people underestimate is when they've been selling on Amazon for a while and they haven't got suspended, and they've been selling for 3 years and haven't got suspended, then assume that suspension is not a real risk. Well, no, that's a non-evaluation. That's an incorrect evaluation of a substantial risk. And again, doesn't mean you should run around like Chicken Little going, oh, Amazon's going to suspend me. You need to just take steps to prevent or minimize the risk of suspension by making sure your business practices are well thought through and you keep very, very much on top of the latest terms of service from Amazon, and that you also have a plan B, even if it's not a very big plan B, that you can keep the lights on should your Amazon channel get shut down for 2 or 3 months. And that sounds like a long time, and that has happened to friends of mine. And so that's an example. I mean, again, it's a bit like car insurance. I don't not get in a car, I drive, but I have car insurance. Although I am happy to relate that I've just got rid of my car because that was a massive overhead that wasn't doing me any good. So that's another story. But so it's just a very, very simple question to put to yourself. Where am I overreacting to potential risk in my business, and is it blocking me from just getting on with life? And where am I underestimating risk? And if I am, okay, the next response is, what are you going to do about it? And there's normally things you can do. Risk mitigation, and then, what would you have? An insurance policy, if you like, if the worst happens. So simple thought, but hopefully useful. And with that, I'm going to leave you to it. Thanks for listening.